So, hello everyone. I am going to start off with one slight warning. There was supposed to be physical props and things if I was going to actually break stuff in front of you. I bought a house, which is really exciting news, and got my keys on Thursday, and I don't know where about 90% of my stuff is. So, I don't have the physical props. I have photos I've managed to grab of very similar products online that I just inserted into ta-da. Anyway, so, who am I, and why am I not really qualified to speak about this? So I'm an XDR engineer at Quorum Cyber. I was a graduate of Edinburgh University, graduated about 2 years ago now. I'm former NSEC committee. They didn't ask me to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. If you guys work for companies that would like to work with student societies, go bug them. And I like photography, sailing, those are totally unrelated, but if you see me in the pub, you can come and talk to me about these topics, and I will love talking about them. Colin over there is an amazing photographer, just giving him a shout out, he's better than I am. And I like breaking things, which is kind of where this talk comes from, is that I am quite a destructive person. I quite like getting my hands on physical products and trying to do things to them. I'm fairly good at that. I like fixing things. I'm not quite as good at that. And have a real interest in finding weird ways of messing with tech. So, I don't really like doing the normal hacking at stuff. I like trying to find odd ways of interacting with it and trying to get it to do things it shouldn't be doing. So, squirrels and hammocks. This is because, the call for papers had a load of suggested tags at the bottom. And had squirrels and hammocks written there as suggested tags, and I'm like, okay. Now, admittedly, I did call for papers after I'd had a couple of drinks. And I saw that, and I was like, I have to collect that. So, I was going to get a hammock and string it across here and deliver my talk from hammock. And then I realised, wait, I'm not outside, there's no, trees and things to tie a hammock to, and I'm not trusting any, office furniture with my weight. So, you're getting a picture of a squirrel in a hammock instead. But yeah, so, why are we talking about this? Why did you come? Actually, a lot more people came than I was expecting. But why are we talking about this? So, who in this room has a smart home device? Put your hands up. Yeah, so that's fairly about what I'd expect. There's, I think it was it's about 10.8 billion IoT devices in the world right now. There's a report from this year that I was looking at. And how many of you guys have smart speakers of some kind? And keep them up if they're Google Homes or some Google-based ones and Amazon Alexa ones. Most people have an Amazon. I'm going to terrify you in a minute. But, and what other stuff do we have? Cameras. Probably a lot of people have some cameras. Smart bulbs, smart sockets, smart switches, all sorts of things. Anyone have smart white goods, so like fridges, washing machines, that sort of stuff? TVs, yeah. I don't get the point of the smart fridges, but you know. So, now let's move on to actual stuff. So, fun thing. This is some researchers found this one. This is a really cool thing, and it's the reason why I'm doing this talk. Because I read this, and I was like, this is really cool. Prompt injection via calendar invite. So this is some research managed to find. So you could send calendar invites, which obviously, if you send an email with a calendar invite, it automatically goes into the person's calendar as a tentative event. So send that via, in this case, we're using Gmail. Interestingly, Microsoft has done some work to prevent this happening. Which means basically they looked at this and went, oh hell, and then quickly did some work on it. So basically the way this tag worked is threat actor sends an email, inside the calendar invite there is whatever they're trying to prompt inject. They would a series of small ones, multi-stage it, and then when the user asks Gemini to summarize what's in their calendar, or to summarize their emails that they received, if it was just an email, or summarize if it's in documents, summarize something for documents. Gemini takes that in and executes whatever is in the prompt, and that allowed these security researchers to control smart heating, smart blinds, smart lights, managed to get exfil some information, they managed to get zoom marking to see video feed, they managed to get information about locations out of Google Maps, they managed to get some information from smart meters connected to it. Basically, they pulled a whole load of information, including managed to get a whole load of exfil out of this. Really, really cool, really clever stuff. Slightly terrifying. So yeah, that's why this is what then made me want to do this talk. So, if we continue our stroll, let's look at cameras. So, IP camera. Who is watching you? Sorry, I'm just gonna, it's not giving me my notes, so let me just, Sorry, I just realised that I have notes for this one, and it's done it the wrong round. Okay, so IP cameras. So obviously, there's all the dodgy ones from China that you can get off AliExpress that cost peanuts. That lots of people do put into environments and use. A lot of them send a hell of a lot of information back. Amusingly, most of the video feed is not encrypted. However, there's a load of other encrypted traffic going out from them. Pointed off towards China. And interestingly, if you block that all, because someone I used to work with, they got a couple of them, because they're really cheap. I only need to be able to monitor them on the network, so they just put them on a VLAN and said nothing from that VLAN can leave. It's an approach, it's not one I'm taking, but it's an approach. But even from reputable brands, there's problems. So for example, Yale cameras do not encrypt video by default. There is a setting where you can enable custom video encryption that they don't clarify what standard they use, but there is an option to turn on video encryption, but it's disabled by default. A whole load of them. Most of them are in that case. You've also got, many have no or very weak encryption. A lot of them have hard-coded credentials as well, especially the ones from China. They will come with very weak default passwords, but actually a lot of them, there will be hard-coded credentials as well as the weak ones, so therefore, it doesn't matter what you set the credentials to, there's still a hard-coded one. And then, in terms of fixing them, just because this was an interesting one I spotted, so most of the fairly reputable security companies, that sort of thing, will push updates. They are actually finally fixing these issues. They are still relatively insecure, regularly finding major vulnerabilities, but they're at least trying now. Swan has no automatic firmware updates in any of the products, including their newer products. So therefore, you're relying, when they do push out security updates, which they do, they've not said anything about how widely dispersed they are, but my assumption would be that most Swan products are probably unpatched. Because if you need to manually go and patch them, who in this room would actually think to go and patch your cameras? So there are a few people. This is much better than the normal. So in this room, yeah, I'm glad there are people, but how many of you would expect your relatives who don't work in tech to do it? Yeah.
You expect us to do it.
Yeah. And if we look at, well, I've already mentioned passwords, but here's just their lists online where you can see different manufacturers and what their default passwords are. So we've got things like admin 12345, or if we're being really secure, admin 123456. Administration, no password. No user anymore, password. So there's a whole load of these sorts of default ones. These lists are widely available, and most of these products do not prompt users to update or change credentials, which means these won't be changed or updated. Has anyone here gone on Shodan and looked up for IP cameras that are publicly available to the world? Yeah, there's far too many, aren't there? Put cameras in people's houses. That has a physical security risk as well, in that if you're trying to break into a house, if you can go and look at their own cameras inside the house, you can see whether there's someone there or not. So you can go and figure out, when do I want to break into this house? But yes. And now, that leads nicely on to, how do we knacker these cameras? So I'm looking at, how do we find weird ways to interfere with the cameras? Interestingly, some of the cheap ones from China that I tried out, I was going to have a selection in front of me, but they're in a box somewhere. Some of the ones that I found from China are, I'm not sure if anyone's got smart bulbs that you can factory reset by switching the power on and off several times. Yeah, there's a number of these smart home cameras that you can factory reset by switching their power off and on several times. Now, interestingly, not in my flat I just moved into, but the flat I moved out on, like many flats, the meter's in a cupboard in the hallway, which is secured by one of those wee square keys that is just basically, it stops the door swinging open. If you can get access to that now, tampering with an electric meter is illegal, so I obviously have not done that, and I genuinely haven't done that. It's stupid, it's risky, don't do that. But if someone does have access to it, and they can flick your power off and on several times, they've just factory reset all smart home devices that works for, including potentially your cameras. And when the factory reset, they're no longer recording, they're no longer uploading, and they're no longer storing locally. And even if the person is to go and try and use them, it'll just show them being offline. Because obviously, so they'll just look at it and go, oh, the cameras are offline. If they even notice. Other ones are, a lot of these ones run on Wi-Fi. So if you can do any of the assorted attacks that are designed to spoof Wi-Fi networks to try and get them to hop onto your access point instead, or just to try and take out Wi-Fi networks, if you want to transmit a signal to interfere or block, that will take them out. Some of the higher end ones will have a buffer where they will store an amount of footage locally before transmitting or uploading. A lot of the cheaper ones don't. So a lot of the cheaper ones live transmit with no buffer. So therefore, if you can jam it or block it, then it doesn't have anywhere to store that footage. So yeah, there's all those sorts of fun things. And then, sorry, this is a very random talk. I wrote this very last minute because it's been a very stressful time. The flow might be slightly odd. These are things I want to talk about. So, locks. Let's talk locks. Lots of people buy really cheap locks off AliExpress. It's really concerning. So I went and bought a load of really cheap locks off AliExpress. So we've got fun ones like, this is just poor design. I'll talk about security in a second, but I have a problem with design. This is a doorknob with the fingerprint on the front. Has anyone here used a doorknob? I got really annoyed trying to use it. I was like, I fitted it to well, not really a door, a block of wood that I drilled the hole out like it was a door. It was awkward to use. It was annoying me before I started trying to break it. So there's that. This one also is secured via Bluetooth. You can do Bluetooth entry. A lot of these security devices that are the cheaper ones from China, most of them do operate on Bluetooth, or some weird proprietary app. A lot of which I then managed to sniff packets it was sending, because most of them it is over Wi-Fi. I just sat Wireshark there. Most of them it's unencrypted traffic, and typically repeating the same. It's just sending an instruction to open, which is a replayable command. So it's not like, for example, I've not got my car keys in my pocket, but I was going to hold my car keys, and if I press that, it transmits a signal. And then when I press it again, it transmits a different signal. And you've got to basically your car's listening for one that's within a block of, it moves to a parallel block, and it's looking for a similar one. That makes sense. Nah, just play the same thing again. So if you are within range to intercept that signal either on the transmitting via Bluetooth, or if you can get onto the network and intercept the Wi-Fi, the signal coming over the network, you can just replay that and the door will unlock itself. And also, we're seeing here you can control it by some smart voice assistants. We're going to come back to that in a little bit because that's a really fun one. That's really insecure. That's far too easy to break. And then we also have other ones like this. So, couple of issues with this one. Oh, yeah, that one also, if the battery runs out, there's no backup. There's no keyway on it. So, if the battery dies, you're drilling or kicking the door in. On the other side, you can turn thing on the back to unlock it, or to disable the locking system to keep it permanently unlocked. But yeah, from the front, yeah. So this one here comes with a range of different bolt and latch options, etc. Some of which you can just slide a bit of card through and pull backwards and it'll unlock. But we'll ignore that for a minute because obviously that. It's got a keyway on the bottom there. I raped that in about 5 seconds flat. Picking it took a whole 45 seconds. And I would like to clarify, I'm bad at lock picking. I'm not good at lock picking, and I got it open pretty simply. Other fun one, this casing's plastic. I have 2 of these, one of which took a hit from hammer. So, yeah, you can get into it, and then the PCB controlling it is just underneath the plastic casing. So, yeah, a wee bit of destruction, you've got access. Metal also isn't that expensive. Like, come on, guys. Little bit of metal. But yes, but going back to this first one, so this is the internal design of it. So it's got the 2 ends, great. The front one's actually held on, as in like, this bit's properly secured. The front bit is actually held on by a single screw that goes into a groove, that goes into an indent and a groove, and basically is just largely friction held. I pulled it off. I was looking at it as I was fitting it, going, that doesn't look very strong. I reckon I could pull that apart. So yeah, 1 foot base below it, throw my body weight, pulled off, came off in my hand, reach in with your pliers to unlock. So at least when the battery dies, you can still get in. But yes, I was feeling in a mildly destructive mood that day, as you could tell. But yeah, so weak links. So we've been talking about, we've got insecure standards going on, we've been talking about that a little bit. Part of that is standards is being used as a fairly loose term given how fragmented the whole IoT ecosystem is currently. So you've got that, and then you've also got all the other weak links. So a lot of these products are featuring problems that are not new. So a lot of it is they've inherited other design problems, like the really easy to pick keyway. This is not new. A lot of code lock doors that aren't the smart ones, that are just the traditional code lock doors, have a key backup. Anytime they put a key backup on something, they make it weak as anything. I don't know why. Have any of you ever tried to deal with a safe that's one of the ones with the code lock on it? For some reason, they instantly put a code or a fingerprint reader, they then put the worst key, the worst lock cylinder in possible, to the point that half the time it's faster to rake the lock than it is to type the code in. I've had to do that before because I had something stuck in a safe, and I'm like, I can't remember the code, and I'm like, right, I'll just go get my lock picks. I'm like, I'll just open it. But yes, so now we're going to go back on something. So this is all kind of new stuff that's new to the talk. We're now going into stuff that I've nicked from a previous talk, that's nicked from my honours project, which is audio playback attacks. I love talking about these. So we're now talking about one of the really weak links is those smart assistants. Those Google Homes, the Amazon Alexas, that sort of thing. They are really insecure. So there's two attacks we're going to talk about. Audio playback attacks, which are where I record you talking. So I either get recordings of you from online, if you agree to having talks recorded, which is really ironic given what I agreed to here, where I'm currently being recorded talking about the risk of letting people record you. So, audio playback attacks. They use that, or they might surreptitiously record you, they might do some sort of social engineering to get specific phrases, that sort of thing. They might just try and manufacture bumping into you in the street and try and get you to talk. That's how they source it. They then play that back to try and convince a system that it's you talking. Now, this can be done for a range of different reasons. It might be done just for traditional impersonation. It's more challenging doing that, but you can do it for that. Or you can do it to target systems on that. And the other one is deepfake audio attacks, where you basically take all that, feed it into some sort of machine learning, and out pops a model that'll talk like it's you. This is terrifyingly easy to do. So it used to be you needed a fair bit of data. Don't anymore. You can get a fairly okay-ish one with like a couple of minutes of recordings. You can get a pretty good one of this. And I'm sure you've seen videos online of of deep fakes of people, of famous people talking. Well, it's actually very easy to do that to just about anyone. But yes, so now, how do these devices verify you or not? So, Google Homes only run what they refer to as ASV, automatic speaker verification. That's what they use to tell who's talking to them. That's what they use to determine what they should be doing. Is it some random person, in which case, yeah, fine, they can play music, but should be unlocking the door? Well, Google actually only runs the ASV on the trigger phrase. So they only run it on OK Google, which I just said on a recording. So if they've got a recording of that, please no one watching this use that on my devices. No, I don't let them do anything. I don't let them do anything that actually matters. But yeah, if they can get that trigger phrase and play that back, it doesn't check for the rest of the phrase that it even is remotely similar. So you can play that trigger phrase and then, in your own voice, sounding totally different, issue a command and it'll, yeah, that's Fraser. Which is a little problematic. So that means, yeah, you don't even need to capture audio of me saying what specific command you're wanting. Via that. So going back, for example, to that smart lock that you can unlock via Google Home. If they've got one in the hallway, pop the letterbox open, play the OK Google, and then just shout, unlock the front door. Open the front door pops, and in you are. Or any other control of any other one of these devices. These things also hold an incredible amount of data about us. They hold information about where you work, where you live, where you go regularly. They have access to all that location data. They have access to mics in your house. They have cameras. They can control different devices. They might be able to switch your lights on and off. They can, in that initial one that I was talking about where they did the prompt injection, they were controlling electronic blinds. But aside from that, there's a lot of very confidential data they might have about you in there. A lot of very personal data, because they are connected to phones as well, which we carry around with us all the time. But yeah, so I've given Google a bit of hassle there. Let's have a go at Amazon now. More people had Amazon devices. Yeah, they don't seem to actually do the verification part of ASV. They seem to do ASR, which is automatic speaker recognition instead of verification. The experience I've had with Alexa devices is that if there's only one user registered on the device, you can play just about anyone talking and it will accept the command about 80 to 90% of the time. If there are multiple people registered on the device, it just seems to pick whoever sounds the most similar. So, it's like, it's clearly been trained because people get annoyed when it rejects commands because it doesn't recognize them. So they have decided, they clearly at some level made a decision, well, people really don't like that, so we're just going to make sure that doesn't happen. I would like to point out, when I was testing these for the other projects, I have actual stats that I can show people if they want to later. I'm not going to bore you with tables. They don't make pretty graphs because the numbers are too big. But they basically seem to just take anything. I'm running low on time, so I'm going to speed run the next bit. Lasers. Okay, so this is the last bit I'm going to cover. So this is some researchers did some really cool things. So this was issuing commands from outside a building. So here we have a lovely Google Home. In that room over there. Sitting there in an office building with a window. Here in this other building, we have a very nice laser, very fancy laser that you can pulse and control, really accurately. Up over there, this is from the window. You can't really see it, but I promise you, that is there. And then there's a telescope to help them aim. This is using a visible laser, and we didn't try it with a laser outside the visible spectrum, but it should work. Basically what this does is I've got 3.5 minutes. I've got 3.5 minutes. I can do this. Okay, so they pulse the laser. So sound waves are mechanical waves moving through a medium. This is not a mechanical wave. This is an electromagnetic wave. But photons, when they impact a surface, impart a tiny amount of energy. When energy is impacted, things vibrate. When I talk, I'm making the air vibrate. When that hits a microphone, when that hits this microphone here, what's happening is the sound waves I'm producing hit it and make the microphone vibrate. You shoot a laser at it, it vibrates too. The trick is, all you need to do is have some fancy software controlling it to make it vibrate in the right way, like someone's talking to it. They managed to issue commands to this from over there by vibrating it with a laser. The only security method to prevent against this is, one, they use microphones that aren't susceptible to that. Not all types of microphones are. But primarily, if you are worried about this, and you have smart devices, make sure you can't see the microphones from out. Yeah, close your curtains, or just put it somewhere in the room that's not visible from outside. But yes, so, results from them. So, Google Home, maximum distance at 5 milliwatts is 110 plus meters through a window. We've got 70 meters over there, lots of 50s at the 60 milliwatt. But yeah, so depending on what devices, whole selection of devices here, it's working. This is a fun one. Also working against here, we've got some iPhones, iPads, etc. This is a fairly high skill attack. The audio playback and deepfake, those are fairly simple. Deepfake's slightly more challenging. The audio playback one, that's what I actually did my honours project in. And my entire honours project was as untechnical as possible because I was trying to go with the lowest skill one. And I was like, I kept having people, oh, but you could do this. I'm like, nah, normal people wouldn't be able to do that. I'm like, I have a phone, I have a laptop, I can only record or play on them. Or generate audio using... Yeah, Alexa would accept Google Translate's readback as being me. I don't think I sound like that, but you know. But yes, I know we have like 1 minute left. Are there any... Is there a question? And if not, come speak to me afterwards. Yeah, any questions?
How much are those lasers?
Bloody expensive. I would love one, but bloody expensive. I think that's really universities that are doing that.
Can we use a laser distance version?
The problem would be just to precisely control it. So it's potentially, yes, you'd have to write a lot of control software for it, and you'd have to jury rig it. You could probably manage it. You just need to rip out all the controls and do that. Yeah.
Could you use a cat laser?
The thing is,
just get your cat to stand.
They've obviously used a very fancy, fairly powerful one. At a shorter distance, yeah, you could use a lower power one and jury rig something up. You just need to write a lot of fancy control software, where they just used a more expensive one.
Yep. The ways of attack not just been beaten by putting a sheet of paper over the wall.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a line of sight attack. So yes, anything you do that disrupts line of sight will work.
There you go, it's don't tidy desk, it solves.
That's fine excuse. My desk is currently sitting sideways against the wall, so my desk is very, very tight. But yeah, any other questions? Actually, we're over time, but yes. Thank you.